Fall Out Boy are really one of those bands that defined my high school years, and yet somehow I never really dove into their discography until years later. While I enjoyed their music, I was put off by their previous album before they broke up called Folie à Deux, where I kind of felt like they were chasing after chart-topping singles like Dance Dance or Thanks for the Memories, and it just felt a bit forced overall. The band broke up, but then they returned with a completely underlooked EP called Pax AM Days, which was very kind of punk influenced. They're very short songs, only a few of them crossing the 2-minute mark, and it was very kind of roughly done and fast-paced. Supposedly recorded in just a day, just at a studio, kind of on a whim type thing, and it's an album that really, I think a lot of people don't really know about even, or have listened to, but it's a really great thing to hear from the band, and kind of gave hope and inspiration. And then they released an album that was really underwhelming called Save Rock and Roll. That was kind of their big comeback, their big return, and it failed to kind of capitalize on anything really. It wanted to be a pop album, but didn't manage to kind of release anything that was extremely catchy or doing anything different than other artists were doing. It was definitely not a return to the sound that many people who enjoyed Fall Out Boy really liked. It was a completely different turn and sound for the band, a band that had its roots in pop punk was now just a fairly simplistic pop band overall. The follow-up to that album was actually one that I enjoyed called American Beauty / American Psycho. I felt like they kind of let loose a little bit and had a bit more fun on that album, and it kind of shows songs like Uma Thurman, for instance, I kind of felt were a bit more on the catchy side and just a little bit more ridiculous than they had done on their Save Rock and Roll album, and I felt like that was a nice return for the band in a lot of ways. It definitely wasn't a rock album. If you're still looking for that sound, it wasn't there, but the band we knew as Fall Out Boy was definitely there. It was a pop album that had a bit of an edge to it at the very least. That brings us to their latest album called Mania, and unfortunately it's more of Save Rock and Roll than it is American Beauty, American Psycho. The bones of the band are still there. Any hope that they would kind of return to a more instrument-focused sound or a rock-focused sound are immediately dashed by the opening track called Stay Frosty, Royal Milk Tea. And it feels a lot similar to their contemporaries Panic at the Disco, with the kind of synthesized bass line, the electronic drum work, and then of course Patrick Stump with his his vocal work on that track as well. But it's any kind of hope that there was for Fall Out Boy returning to what we believed to be Fall Out Boy is immediately dashed. I mean, this band is not going back. They are at this point kind of cemented that sound for better or for worse, and it shows right off the bat. I mean, the track itself is pretty decent. It's definitely got those sarcastic kind of lyrics on there. Definitely something that I liked about the band, and that I think they do pretty well. It definitely brings the lyrical content full force with that song, with the song Church, for instance, which kind of have that sarcastic and biting lyrics on there. And Patrick Stump only kind of increases his vocal abilities on this album. He's really kind of stretching himself, and he did release a fantastic solo album where he definitely showed off what he could do with his voice, and has come so far from the early days of the band. And I really kind of feel like he explored a little bit more on this album compared to the previous ones. There's some moments there that are a bit soulful, some moments that it really feels like he's pushing himself vocally, and then there's some kind of more fun moments where it feels like he's doing his classic kind of style, just overall. And I think that those elements kind of at least help these songs elevate beyond just kind of fluffy chart toppers or chart chasers, I should say. It doesn't feel like they're written just to, for the most part, like they're just trying to reach a single on the chart or something. There's a little bit more depth to some of these songs, but overall they just don't really catch on. There's nothing here that really sets fire. A lot of it feels lacking, unfortunately, and it's just that while there's flashes of what the band was, there's just there's nothing that really kind of comes through on this album. It's unfortunate because at this point the band feels like they're writing songs and writing music as a rock band, but recording them as a pop group, and it just feels like that duality kind of holds them back. It's easy to hear how some of these songs could sound live or at least done with actual instruments versus the electronics that we get on here. It's kind of sad to hear songs like Champion and just imagine what they could sound like if the band had or actually recorded them as a live band or as a rock band versus, you know, what they did here with the completely synthesized work for the electronics. I mean, at this point, it feels like the other band members have become irrelevant to the recording process. As I mentioned, it feels like their songs are still written as a band, as a rock band, but when the recording actually happens, it just feels like there's nothing there. If they band members, they might as well not have a drummer or a guitarist or a bassist or anything. I mean, Patrick Stump is really the delivering the vocals is really the only one that's actually feels relevant to the actual recording on here, and it's just a little bit disappointing because, again, I feel like these songs could actually be better if they were done with the band, and hearing them live, I could just imagine that they sound 10 times more ambitious than what they actually sound like on here and on this album. So it would be nice if they would maybe record a live album, or at least kind of, even if they're not going to go back to being a straight rock band, just to bring back some of those actual instruments that we are used to and would like to hear. Even if you set your expectations at the door, Fall Out Boy's Mania really kind of disappoints. It feels like it's at best a mediocre pop album, but it does have a bit of an edge to it. I mean, they're still doing what we kind of expect from the band as far as the sarcastic lyrics and the things like that. And obviously Patrick Stump is a fantastic vocalist, and the songs are still written and structured like rock songs, but poised to be pop songs and recorded as pop songs. And that's something that really kind of holds this album back a lot, and has kind of held the band back in general. And it's by no means a bad album. It's just one that feels like its potential has been lost. Thank you so much for watching the review of Fall Out Boy's Mania. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Have you liked this new direction that Fall Out Boy has taken over the last few albums since their return? Do you agree with me that they really should kind of focus more on bringing the instruments back to things? I want to know what you guys think about it, so please let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel for more.